Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, grilled on Blake Lively in contentious interview.
Justin Baldoni's lawyer just publicly humiliated Blake Lively, exposing how she weaponized false allegations against Baldoni to try to destroy his career.
You say with certainty that your client did not harass her?
I can say that with certainty that my client is one of the most honorable people I've ever.
He revealed her secret dealings with the press, proving she orchestrated hit pieces to manipulate public opinion.
You don't want to believe that execs at the very tippity top are being essentially threatened or bullied or coerced or extorted and by a couple like Ryan and Blake or like Taylor Swift.
Friedman also exposed how Lively threatened media outlets to control the narrative, making this a huge win for Justin Baldoni. The lawsuit started with Lively claiming she was supposedly harassed on set, but Friedman just dropped a legal nuke on her entire story.
So that's really a huge win for Justin Baldoni.
He isn't just sitting back and taking the hits. He's firing back with a $400 million defamation countersuit. And honestly, I hope he drags this all the way to March 2026, just so we can watch Lively's PR House of Cards collapse in real time.
He sat down and chatted in a new podcast interview, and he had a lot to say.
And let's be real, Blake thought she was untouchable, right? She thought she could scream harassment, get the New York Times to do her dirty work, and Hollywood would automatically side with her. But here's the problem. She got way too cocky.
And wanted to emphasize that Justin Baldoni is truly a good guy, and that he was not happy with all of the negative press that Blake Brown was getting around the release of their movie, It Ends With.
Friedman just pulled back the curtain and exposed how this whole thing was a coordinated PR attack against Baldoni. The New York Times, WME, and some of the biggest names in Hollywood, they were all working together to try to destroy Baldoni's career before he even had a chance to defend himself. And guess what? It's blowing up right in Blake's face.
Even in her own CRD complaint and in her own initial filed complaint, it says that everything was fine from that point on. So now we're really limited to nothing more ultimately than was there a smear campaign.
Because when a lawyer like Friedman starts talking, people start listening. And the New York Times? Yeah, they're looking shady as hell right now.
In the CRD complaint and in the first filing of the lawsuit with the Southern District of New York, the allegations in the complaint say once the 17-point list was agreed to, everything from then on was fine. There were no.
Friedman revealed how the New York Times sat on their hit piece for months, waiting for the perfect time to release it. And then, boom. They drop it on a Friday night during a holiday weekend, giving Baldoni just 15 hours to respond. Oh, how generous. 15 whole hours to react to a coordinated career assassination. Imagine being that brazenly corrupt and still pretending to be a reputable newspaper.
Filing of the complaint was done in coordination with the Times. I don't have evidence of that, but I assume that the story was timed to go right when it was filed.
If you're working on a story for months and then give someone notice on a Friday night, that's a pretty shady move. Now on to Blake's most ridiculous stunt in this entire mess, the infamous dragon texts, because apparently we're living in some bizarre medieval fantasy where Blake Lively thinks she's a Game of Thrones character. Friedman exposed 170 pages of internal messages where Blake was actively strategizing against Baldoni, and let me tell you, this woman isn't just manipulative. She's downright delusional.
15 hours. A lot of those are sleep hours.
Okay.
For those that sleep. A lot of those are on a holiday weekend on a Friday night. Yes. at 9 o'clock at night. For those
that is, I will give you that. That is a shady move. If you're working on a story for months and you're giving somebody notice on a Friday night, that's a pretty shady move.
She literally called herself Khaleesi. Yes, Khaleesi. And said her dragons, aka Ryanreynolds and Taylor Swift, were her protectors against Baldoni. Is this a lawsuit or an HBO series? Because I'm really struggling to tell the difference.
It's a real sad moment here where this U.S. influencer takes a video of her running across the street to grab the baby wombat, rip it away from its little mother there, just for...
And you know what's hilarious? Taylor Swift's silence. That's right, Taylor freaking Swift. The woman who will write an entire Grammy-winning album about a bad date hasn't said a single word about this lawsuit.
Why?
Maybe because even she doesn't believe Blake's nonsense.
Massive upload of documents. Blake leverages her friendship with Taylor Swift against Baldoni. She says, I'm like Khaleesi.
Swift famously donated $250,000 to Kesha when she was fighting a real case of abuse. But now, when her so-called best friend is supposedly a victim? Crickets. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how much of a joke Blake's case is, I don't know what will.
And my husband Ryan and my best friend Taylor are my dragons. They inspire me, they support me. Well, Taylor has been silent. Not a peep from Taylor.
Speaking of Hollywood, let's talk about WME's betrayal of Baldoni. This is where things get really shady. WME represented both Baldoni and Lively, but the second this lawsuit hit, they dropped Baldoni like a bad stock investment and ran to Lively and Reynolds. And guess who was behind it? None other than Ari Emanuel, CEO of WME, a man who makes Hollywood power moves like he's playing 4D chess. Emanuel even went on a podcast and publicly mocked Baldoni, calling him a bad guy, while praising Blake and Ryan as Hollywood's perfect, flawless, soulfully beautiful couple. If this guy had any less subtlety, he'd be a Marvel villain.
Has been silent. Not a peep from Taylor. You know what I mean? Look, question for the women out there. If you tell your best friend you were sexually harassed by a guy, wouldn't you hope that that dragon would breathe a little fire on that jerk in your...
But the real joke here is Emanuel's fake moral high ground. He said, if the allegations against Baldoni are true, then he's a terrible guy. See that little word if? That's Hollywood speak for, I have no idea what's actually true, but I'll say whatever protects my money. And we all know why he's siding with Lively and Reynolds, because Ryan Reynolds makes WME a hell of a lot more money than Baldoni ever could. The second it came down to choosing profit over fairness, Baldoni was out.
Baldoni in the process. He said, it's an effed up bad situation with what Baldoni, whatever his name is doing.
And of course, Blake couldn't just stop at media manipulation and PR stunts. She had to go for a full-blown smear campaign. Fredman exposed how her PR team, led by Leslie Sloan, worked directly with the New York Times to time the release of their attack article. This wasn't about truth. This was about career assassination. And the New York Times? Yeah, they were more than happy to play along. They claimed to be an unbiased news outlet, but here they were, orchestrating a hit job on Baldoni while pretending to report the facts. And the cherry on top? Baldoni's team is exploring defamation lawsuits against the New York Times for intentionally damaging his reputation. Honestly, good, because at this point, someone needs to hold these media puppets accountable for acting as PR mercenaries for celebrities who pay them enough.
It's a pretty shady move. Doesn't make it defamation, but it does make it a little ski.
So where does this go from here? Is Baldoni going to settle? Absolutely not. Fredman made it clear that Baldoni refuses to settle unless his name is fully cleared. And honestly, I hope he drags Blake, her PR team, and every complicit media outlet through the legal mud for as long as it takes, because the second Baldoni lets this go, Hollywood learns that people like Blake Lively can get away with ruining a man's career with nothing but a few fake tears and a well-placed media campaign.
Him as somebody who understands, yeah, this is super shady and it was definitely a coordinated campaign. It doesn't mean that it's illegal, but for the public's knowledge, it's not really necessarily important whether or not it was illegal. It's who deserves the justice here.
And let's be honest, Blake isn't just losing the legal battle, she's losing public support too. She thought she could weaponize the hashtag #MeToo movement for personal gain, but now even diehard Swifties are side-eyeing her story. She thought Hollywood would rally behind her, but instead, half the industry is pretending she doesn't exist. She thought she could play the victim, but now her own texts are exposing her as the mastermind behind a smear campaign.
In fact, says his lawyer, the publicists are saying, we had nothing to do with this whatsoever. And there's other people that say the same thing and that organically this press was coming out.
And that's the reality. No matter how many PR strategies she deploys, no matter how many hit pieces she commissions, No matter how hard she tries to play the innocent victim, the receipts are out there. Fredman is making sure of it. And Blake? Well, she's learning the hard way that in Hollywood, the truth always comes out.
Basement Banisher's legal team have referred to her as a victim repeatedly, and they've referred to him as a predator and a sexual harasser.
Blake Lively and her PR disaster just keep getting better. At this point, she might as well hold a press conference in full medieval armor, since she already thinks she's Khaleesi. But now, her entire victim act is crumbling faster than her credibility, and Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Fredman, is making sure of it.
His attorney responded, I actually think that a lot of people are victims here. I think Justin is a victim here. I think Melissa Nathan is a victim. I think Jed Wallace is a victim. I think Jen Abel is a victim. I think Steve Sorrow.
So, let's talk about the legal clown show that went down in court on March 6, 2025. Fredman, in what might be the best passive-aggressive legal move ever, straight up told the judge.
Said, quote, my client has no intent of harming Miss Lively in any way. My clients have a right to defend themselves. That is in no way abusing the victim.
Sounds polite, right? But then, when Fredman was pressed about actually calling Lively a victim, he immediately backtracked, saying, asterisk, victim is in the eye of the beholder. Asterisk.
One thing, but does it rise to the legal definition of harassment? And the answer to that is no.
Translation: Blake's entire legal argument is a joke. Because here's the deal. If she's really a victim, why is she the one launching a coordinated smear campaign against Baldoni? Last time I checked, victims aren't out here pulling PR stunts, weaponizing the media, and strategically leaking texts to destroy someone's career. You either need justice or you need revenge.
I am so glad that Judge Lyman did not issue a gag order in this case.
And Blake's clearly going for revenge. This is exactly why her entire case is sitting in a legal gray area, shakier than her acting skills. Lively and her merry band of PR manipulators have spent months telling the world she's a helpless victim of harassment, but Fredman just exposed her as the mastermind behind an industry-wide takedown attempt. You can't be the villain and the victim at the same time, Blake. Pick a lane.
Look at the harassment and what you're talking about. There were certain things that were alleged in the pleadings that she calls harassment, and that will be the subject of that matter.
But it gets even worse for her because Hollywood has its own set of rules, and when power politics enter the chat, things get really dirty. Let's talk about Ari Emanuel, CEO of William Morris Endeavor, WME, aka the guy who single-handedly decided Baldoni wasn't worth protecting. The second this lawsuit started, Emanuel made sure Baldoni was kicked to the curb like last season's failed Netflix reboot.
Now, he said Lively and Reynolds are good people. They've been in the business for decades and have never had any bad press about them and all the people they work.
And just to really make it clear that WME had chosen sides, Emanuel went on the Freakonomics podcast and publicly mocked Baldoni. The same agency that once cashed Baldoni's checks was now painting him as the bad guy. But here's the kicker. He then said, asterisk, if the allegations against Baldoni are true, then he's a terrible guy. Asterisk.
So Ari goes on to say, if it's true what they're saying in that allegation, by the way, if it's true what Blake is saying, then these are bad guys. He goes on to say they didn't have an intimacy coordinator.
Ah, yes. The classic Hollywood damage control move. Pretend your A-list clients are perfect angels and sacrifice the smaller fish. Except Emanuel's version of no bad press is hilarious, considering Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively aren't exactly scandal-free. Blake's entire career is built on playing rich, morally questionable blondes, and Ryan Reynolds has basically turned Deadpool into his entire personality.
All this on the Freakonomics podcast. He is a true Hollywood power player, right? He's feared. However, he is not an honest arbiter in this debacle. I mean, Ryan's 10% is a lot more lucrative to the agency than Baldoni.
But let's not pretend this was ever about morality. Emmanuel didn't drop Baldoni because he believed Lively's nonsense. He did it because Ryan Reynolds is a billion-dollar asset. Between Aviation Gin, Mint Mobile, and the Deadpool franchise, Reynolds is Hollywood's golden boy, and WME was never going to risk their cash cow over Baldoni. This wasn't a righteous decision. It was business as usual in Hollywood. When in doubt, cut loose the less profitable star to protect the moneymaker.
Did use the word if. If these things that Blake is saying, and I believe them to be amazing people, if they're true, then Baldoni's a terrible guy. Okay, sure, if they are, but it just doesn't seem like they are at all. Not even close.
And speaking of clueless PR disasters, let's talk about the biggest mistake Blake and Ryan have made in this whole mess. Their SNL 50th anniversary special appearance. Because if you're in the middle of a lawsuit about sexual harassment, the last thing you should do is turn it into a comedy bit. But Blake and Ryan? Apparently so disconnected from reality that they thought cracking jokes about the lawsuit on live TV was a great idea.
Harassment. But he also says their issue is going to be more, can they prove that there was a smear?
The audience reaction was brutal. Not only did Hollywood insiders distance themselves from them at the afterparty, but actual A-list legends like Robert De Niro and Kevin Costner straight up avoided them. Imagine walking into a room full of Hollywood royalty and realizing no one wants to be associated with you. That's where Blake and Ryan are right now, radioactive. And then there's Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Fredman, who wasted no time obliterating them for this stunt. His response:
I'm unaware of anybody, frankly, whose wife has been sexually harassed and has made jokes about that type of.
Ouch. I mean, he's right, though. If Blake Lively was actually devastated by what allegedly happened to her, why would she sit there laughing about it on national TV? The deposition trap here is brutal because you better believe Fredman's team is going to play that SNL footage in court. And when that happens, how is Blake going to explain why she thought it was funny?
That was not very positive about the alleged nose job recipient. Alleged. I gotta protect myself.
But the real death blow isn't just Hollywood insiders turning against them. It's the public backlash. Over 90% of online comments slammed Blake and Ryan's SNL appearance as tasteless and performative. Even people who don't follow this lawsuit are looking at them like, asterisk, wait, if this was real, why are you making jokes about it? Asterisk.
Wife accusing a guy of sexual harassment, right? That's why it's no laughing matter, sexual harassment.
So now Blake isn't just losing in court, she's losing in public opinion too. She thought she could ride the #MeToo movement to victory, but now she's facing backlash from the very people she expected to support her. She expected Hollywood to rally behind her, but instead, her own industry is treating her like a liability.
I think there could be some argument about whether it was leaked and shouldn't have been leaked and should they have the information or what it may be. But no matter what happens, this is a damning quote.
And let's not forget, this isn't over. Baldoni isn't backing down and Fredman is only getting started. With Blake's credibility in freefall, WME's strategic betrayal out in the open, and her SNL blunder forever documented, this lawsuit is shaping up to be a full-scale disaster for her. At this point, she's running out of places to hide. Justin Baldoni has officially declared war with his $400 million lawsuit against Blake Lively, and honestly, it's about time. After months of Blake running around Hollywood playing the victim, Baldoni has had enough, and he's dragging her into court for career and reputation damage.
All afraid of getting scooped.
They've been working on it for 5 months.
I get it.
And look, I mean, it's a real strong.
But it doesn't stop there. This lawsuit also targets the New York Times for knowingly publishing misleading information in collaboration with Lively's shady PR team. Because let's be real, this entire case has been one giant Hollywood hit job, and now Baldoni is coming for blood.
You might not win in court over defamation, but the audience goes, you mean you covered this for 5 months and then on a Friday night you reached out to Justin Baldoni for comment, and by the time he got back to you, you already published?
Let's talk about the key evidence that completely shatters Blake's credibility. First of all, not a single formal HR complaint was ever filed against Baldoni at Sony, the actual film distributor of It Ends With Us. So if Blake was really suffering on set, why didn't she report it to Sony? Oh, that's right, because she was too busy leaking stories to the media instead.
Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blake Lively got a big loss.
But here's where it gets even funnier. Lively's team tried to push 2 anonymous harassment claims against Baldoni, hoping to bolster her case. But guess what? Major news outlets refused to publish them because even they thought they lacked credibility. Imagine being so desperate for proof that you have to manufacture anonymous accusers only for the media to turn you down because the story is too ridiculous to print. That's next level embarrassing.
Okay, let's just call it a day.
And let's not forget the stakes here. If Baldoni wins, this could become one of the largest defamation payouts in Hollywood history, a $400 million win against Blake Lively and the New York Times. That's career-ending money. That's the kind of loss that sends you into hiding in a remote European village, pretending you just wanted to take a break from Hollywood. Blake thought she could destroy Baldoni with a few well-placed salacious stories in the media, but instead, she might end up being the one exiled from Hollywood.
You are not able to hold a logical thought, but guess what? I, as a judge, I am able to hold a logical thought, so we're going to slap that down. You obviously can.
But Blake and her power-hungry legal team still aren't backing off without one final desperate stunt, because when a case starts collapsing, what do? Try to bury your opponent in subpoenas and hope something sticks? And that's exactly what Lively's camp just did. Blake's lawyers demanded access to 2.5 years' worth of Baldwin's phone records. Yes, every text call and email.
Judge in Blake Lively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request.
And the court said no.
This isn't just a fishing expedition. This is a full-scale search and destroy mission. They have nothing, so now they're digging through 2.5 years of his life, hoping to find something, anything, they can twist into evidence. Fredman called this exactly what it is, a desperate, legally inappropriate move. And he's fighting it in court.
Client is one of the most honorable people I've ever met, is true and genuine, that without question, he did not, now, whether she felt harassed or not is one thing.
And here's the best part. Liv's plan is already backfiring. While her team is begging for Baldoni's phone records, Fredman is countering with his own demand. Blake Lively's private communications with the New York Times and her PR strategists. If the court grants his request, we'll finally see the receipts showing how this whole media circus was orchestrated. We'll get proof that Blake's team worked directly with the media to smear Baldoni, and at that point, her entire legal argument collapses.
And the judge also said, if this goes to trial and it's entered into evidence, it will no longer be confidential.
But now the biggest question remains. Will this case actually go to trial, or is Lively going to try to settle before it gets even worse for her? Fredman has made one thing very clear. Baldoni refuses to settle unless his name is fully cleared. He's not just looking for money, he's looking for justice. And honestly, Blake should be terrified.
We're probably happy about the negative press that she was getting. Come on, don't play us for fools, Brian Friedman.
But let's be real, Blake cannot afford to have this go to trial. If she testifies under oath, she will be grilled on every lie, every leaked text, and every contradiction she's thrown into the media. Her PR stunts will be used against her, and her credibility will be destroyed in front of the entire world. And let's not forget Ryan Reynolds, because if this trial happens, he might be forced to defend his actions at SNL, where he literally made jokes about the lawsuit. How do you explain laughing about your wife's harassment case on live TV? Short answer, you don't. Juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility. So now Blake is backed into a corner. If she settles, she looks guilty. If she fights, she risks exposing even more of her lies. And no matter what she chooses, Hollywood is watching. This case could change how the industry handles high-profile sexual harassment allegations and defamation claims, and Blake Lively might just go down as the cautionary tale of what happens when you weaponize the media for personal revenge. This scandal is only getting worse for Blake Lively. Subscribe for more updates, because this Hollywood war is far from over.